We have filed a lawsuit against the city of Seattle. If you watch the show routinely, you will know the backstory, but let me just catch people up who might not be familiar. Our lawsuit centers around public records related to a controversial vote by Seattle City Councilman Andrew Lewis. There was a common sense proposal back in June that was before the city council that would have allowed Seattle police officers to start arresting people for using drugs out in the open, which has been such a significant problem in the city. And at the very last minute, after telling anyone who would listen that he was going to support this bill, Andrew Lewis cast the deciding no vote.
I came out here on the dais today fully prepared to vote for this measure because I do think it is generally proper that we reconcile our SMC to the state law. But with the ending of community court without any additional process, I just can't do it today. I just can't.
So after that vote, I thought, well, this is just political cowardice. A bunch of activists showed up in the room and yelled at him, so he changed his vote at the last minute. But I wanted to be sure that there weren't any sort of improper outside influences that made him change his mind, because he has been all over the place when he's tried to explain why he switched his vote literally at the last minute. So we had filed a public records request at the end of June, as you know, and it was very narrow in scope. It sought text messages and phone calls to and from Andrew Lewis's city-issued cell phone and emails from just a 10-hour period of time on the day of the vote, before and after the vote, because we wanted to see who's communicating with him. And I don't know if there's any there. That's the point of public records requests, though, is to try to find out if there's any there. We were told initially that our first installment of those records would be available at the end of August, just after the primary election, which Andrew Lewis was on the ballot because he's maybe going to keep his job this year. Voters get to decide. We got some records from them. They weren't very significant records. And then they told us the next installment, presumably the installment with the information that we're looking for, would be available just days after the general election in November. I don't believe in coincidences. And so we have teamed up with the Citizen Action Defense Fund. They have been kind enough to pursue this case for us and file over the weekend a public records lawsuit against the city of Seattle. The Citizen Action Defense Fund said in a statement of this case, this is not the first time Seattle violated public records law to protect a city official from scrutiny. We intend to hold the city accountable for its political gamesmanship. Here's the bottom line. I simply want the records. And I think the people of Seattle deserve to know before the November election whether there was any influence on the councilman for downtown that changed his mind at the last minute. As I said, I don't know what we're going to find. I don't know if we're going to find anything of consequence other than, a bunch of people just telling Andrew Lewis how they feel about it. I am not hopeful at this point that we're going to get those records before the November election, especially now that this is the subject of a lawsuit, but we couldn't sit back and just let this happen. We weren't going to sit back and just say, oh, well, I guess it's just a coincidence that the first installment of records we got was after the primary, and the second installment of records is scheduled to come to us 3 days after the general election. I've been doing this job long enough to know that coincidences like that don't really happen. And I have done countless public records requests in my career as a journalist in the city of Seattle for 15 years. And I have had requests that are much more broad in scope get responded to much, much more quickly. So this doesn't smell right. And so, again, thank you to the Citizen Action Defense Fund for stepping up, for filing this lawsuit on our behalf, and we will certainly keep you guys up to date as to what happens.